Hi, bio students. I'm Claire Lobdell, one of the librarians at GCC, and I'm going to be talking to you about some information for writing your one-page research papers that you're going to be doing throughout the semester. We're going to cover how to figure out what sort of sources are appropriate for your papers and how and when to cite those sources. So let's take a look at those things. All right. So when you are looking at web sources and videos on the web, there are some things you can look for to figure out whether these are good enough quality sources to use in your paper. And Professor Markush has provided a really helpful rubric that she uses to grade your papers. So it would be really helpful if you look at those and see, what she wants. So some things to look for as you're figuring out what type of sources to use. Check and see if there's an author listed. If not, that's probably something to avoid. If there is an author listed, can you tell what their credentials are? Do they work in the field that they are talking about? What is their job in that field? If it's a reporter, are they a dedicated health reporter? Is what you're looking at a website or news source that you've heard of before? Again, if not, it's a good sign to be a little more cautious. You can always look up that website or news source on something like Wikipedia to find out a little more about it, whether it has an editor. So if there's a second set of eyes looking at these articles before they're posted online. For videos on YouTube, check and see if it's a channel associated with a website or news outlet that you've heard of before. There's a lot of good content on YouTube, but there's also a lot of real lousy stuff that people just put up there, to get ad revenue. And then also, is there a date listed and how recently was this thing published? You want to be using accurate, up-to-date information. So try to keep to things that have been published fairly recently. Now I'm going to give you some examples of types of websites that have content that would be appropriate for this class. So one really good category are government websites. The US government has several health-focused websites like the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. There's also the NIH, National Institutes of Health. Both of these have a lot of information on a lot of different health-related subjects. There's also the WHO, the World Health Organization, which is the United Nations branch that's specifically focused on health. You can also look for news outlets with dedicated health reporters or something like this, Kaiser Health News, which is a news outlet that's just for health news. Again, when you're looking at news outlets, try to find ones that have an editor. So again, that second set of eyes that looks at articles before they're posted online. You could also, here's another one, the NPR Health Desk, again, has dedicated health reporters. And then the New York Times, another well-known one that has a specific health section with dedicated healthcare reporters. You can also look at the websites of major research hospitals. The Mayo Clinic is a really well-known one. A lot of times, if you're doing a search for a disease or condition, one of the first results you'll probably get is from the Mayo Clinic. Another good category are professional organizations. These are organizations that people join to keep up for professional development, to keep up and network with other people in their field. So some examples include the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association. There are also, numerous professional organizations for nurses, for physical therapists, occupational therapists, all sorts of different folks in the larger healthcare field. Another good one to consider is the Pew Research Center, which is a nonpartisan research think tank. They especially if you're looking for information or statistics about a particular issue. They do a lot of large scale research. Some of it is survey based. They also just crunch huge data sets, and they tend to be a really, really good source for easily understandable statistics about a really wide variety of topics. You can also use some of our library resources. The best way to get to those is using Discovery Search. So on our main library website, Discovery Search is this box at the top, and it is a single search that you can use to search across all our databases. It searches our library catalog, and you get all the results in one place. So here I did a search for binge drinking and college students, and the results list looks something like this. I would recommend that you take a look at the abstract for the results that you come across. A lot of the results in here will be scholarly research articles, which are articles that are written by experts in the field for other experts in the field. So sometimes they can be written in pretty difficult to understand language unless you are an expert in that field already. And reading the abstract, which is a short summary of the article, can give you a sense of how complicated the language is that they use and whether you'll be able to understand it. You're going to have to cite the things that you use in your paper. And so it's a really good idea to copy the permalink for those articles. And I've highlighted off to the right where the permalink is for the articles in the results lists of Discovery Search. Now, if you're off campus and trying to access one of the Discovery Search articles, you are going to have to log in on a screen that looks like this screenshot to the right. You will put in your library card number, which any GCC student automatically has a library card number, whether or not you have a physical card. That library card number is 269960 plus your student ID number. And then the password is your last name in all caps, unless you have already changed that password. Also, if you do want a physical library card, you can come to the library and we make student IDs here. So your student ID will be on one side and your library card will be on the other side of that same card. Another thing you can use is our streaming video service called Films on Demand, which has educational videos, some news videos, and also a lot of documentaries, and can be a good source for what you need for this paper. All right, I'm going to just briefly touch upon how and when to cite your sources. So I think probably most people are familiar with the first one, which is when you use direct quotes or the exact language from a source, you really need to cite where you got that from. You also need to include citations if you use images or graphs that you got from, say somewhere online or from a paper or article. If it's something that you didn't create, you need to cite that. And then also when you use ideas or information that you wouldn't otherwise have known except for reading or watching this source, you need to cite that. And Professor Markush doesn't require that you use a particular citation style. You don't have to use APA or the MLA style, but you do have to use enough information that she can find the article or video that you used. So include the URL and probably the name of the article and the author of it. If you are in doubt, if you need help finding things, if you have questions about when to cite things, please get in touch with one of us. Talk to a librarian. You can email us at library@gcc.mass.edu or call us at 413-775-1831, and we will look forward to talking to you. Good luck on your research papers.